Here's task 1. I am registering the employee writer with the name nero.germanicus@gmail.com. Okay. And then as you can see, one row affected, so that call was executed properly. And now I'm going to register him as an employee writer. So his username, as mentioned, is ngermanicus 19-01-01. And then execute. And as you can see, one row is affected. And if we pull up the queries, we can see that ngermanicus, where is he? Right here, is successfully logged into the user table with his first name, last name, status 2 for pending for approval, and a password that is hashed. And if we check the writer table, we can see that ngermanicus is also successfully logged in. Check to see if ngermanicus is logged in the employee table. We can see that select all for employee where username equals n.germanicus. There is no such tuple with the username ngermanicus. And that is because his date of birth is in 2019, which makes him younger than 18 as of May 21, 2019. So if we check the email table, we can see that ngermanicus is successfully logged in. We are going to be registering the employee writer, Julius Caesar, who has, so first we're going to be registering him as a user. And his username is, and that one row is executed. And now we are going to be registering him as an employee writer. So screen 5, and his username, as mentioned, is J. So as we can see, he's logged in as J Caesar, Julius Caesar, pending, password hashed. And now select from writer where username equals j.caesar. And yep, with the new referral code, his country of birth is Italy, continent Europe, is international 0 because he is domestic, and he is also referred by Ludwig Beethoven according to his referral code. And if we check the employee table, yes, where his username is j.caesar. We can see that he is in fact logged because he is older than 18, much older. We're now going to be registering him as a conductor. And the username is j.caesar. And for raise amount, we will put null unless he requests otherwise in a different screen. And now it is executed, and then if we check if he is present in the conductor table, we can see that, yes, Julius Caesar is present. emperor@rom.com, and his password is a2root. So we're going to execute the statement, and okay, 0 rows returned. So let's see. We can see that his status is 2, which stands for pending, meaning that he is unable to log in, and that is why we had the statement 0 row returned where we called the screen. We can do it actually again, and yeah, we can see 0 rows returned because he is not approved by an administrator yet, therefore cannot log in. To verify, the screen 1 login procedure would return the distinct username if in fact the user was able to log in successfully. Ajay, and I'm going to be doing task 4, where we'll be logging in msmith@gmail.com email user and with the password msmith456. So if we do this, it works properly because the way we designed the procedure of logging in, if it's a successful login, we would return the username. And as we can see, Michael Smith is returned. So just to clarify, just to make sure, if we do select username for email, where email equals msmith@gmail.com, we can see it's Michael Smith. And this is because if we find the status from the user table where the username equals michael.smith, we can see it's 1, which means that he is approved, and this was a successful login.
As you can see, Julius Caesar is a pending conductor. Once again, let's demonstrate that we can filter by conductors by pulling up screen 4 filter. 14 filter and running it based on the type of user being a conductor. Whoops, we must have misspelled conductor. Perhaps it was case sensitive. My apologies. Oh, I apologize again. I needed to include all here. That is correct. Alright. So as we can see, this includes only conductors and right conductors, one of which is Julius Caesar, who has not been approved. Let's go ahead and approve him now. We're going to approve of Julius Caesar. J.Caesar. Executing this stored procedure will make him approved. Let's go ahead and run this command again. And now we see that Julius Caesar is approved.
Rome to London. And if we run this procedure, we find that it's all on the same line, the blue line. And we start from Rome, which is stop 10, and then the third stop is London. So there are 7 stops in between if you count the final destination. So that is why we put the number of stops here as 7 in our cost function. And the user that is currently logged in is Michael Smith. So if you look him up, we find that he is international. So that is why we put a 1 here. And if we look at the number of people that he's referred, which relates to his status, we see that he's referred 0 people. So his membership status is 0. And if we look at the train function, we see that he only takes blue routes from Rome to London. So they are all regular lines, meaning that there are the 0 number of high-speed trains. And with this, we can find our cost function. And this is $70. Try to find the routes from Rome to Madrid. So if we run the stored procedure, we see that there are 2 lines needed, meaning there's a transfer in Paris. So first you take the blue line from Rome, and then you go to Paris in the blue line, and then you switch over to the red line, and you go from Paris to Madrid. And there's a total of, so it'd be 10 minus 4, so 6 stops in the blue line, and then on the red line, 6 minus 2 stops, so it'd be 4. So 6 plus 4 is 10 total stops. And now we see that there are only blue and red train IDs. And if you look at the trains, we see that the only high speed is green. So since there are no green lines taken, there are 0 high speed trains. So that's why we put a 0 here. And since it's the same user, as you remember from before, his member status is none, and he is international, so there's a 1 here. So if you run the cost function, we see that it costs him $100.
The goal of this task is to create a purple train with capacity 79 from locations Rome to Madrid with type high speed. Let's go ahead and pull up MySQL. We've checked the train table right now. You'll see we don't have a purple train. We've got this screen 17 create train. It takes in the ID, the type of train, the capacity, the conductor, and then the administrator. This is just a random administrator, obviously. Let's go ahead and run this create script. Let's see if the train is there now. Of course it is, and it's got no conductor yet. Okay, that's the first part of this. The second part of this is we'd like to go ahead and add locations. We've created a train, but if we go to this locations query, you will see that the train does not actually have any locations just yet. So we have this routine here called add locations, which just inserts into the location whatever the location name is for the train with the ID, and with the location number being whatever you pass in. So for example, we have this set of add location calls that we will make. Let's go ahead and run those. Bam, bam, bam. All of them have been run. Let's now see if we have locations for this train. If we do, we have Rome, 1, 2, 3, and Madrid.
So here I'm going to set the train ID to blue, admin ID to James Smith, and here it shows the capacity, the train ID administrator, and the total stops made for that. So I'm gonna update the conductor's salary to 100,000 for conductor 5, and select from conductor, and conductor's 5's salary is now 100,000, and if I change that, then it is now 20,000.
In a user with the email emperor@rome.com and with the password a2brute. And so from previous screens, we know that this user, Julius Caesar, was approved by an administrator. So he should be able to successfully log in. And as we could see, this function is returning something, which means that the login was successful in contrast to before.
Taking a ride from Rome to Madrid and taking this route for the specified date under the specified logged in user. So for this, I first call the procedure find route from Rome to Madrid. This gives me the best possible route from Rome to Madrid with the least number of transfers. Here we can see that the number of stops is 10 and the train IDs are red and blue. In order to calculate the cost of the route, we need to find out what type of trains are red and blue. For this, we can go to the train table, and here we see that the red and blue trains are both regular trains. In order to find whether the rider is international or not, we go to the rider table and see that the rider Mario Garcia is indeed international. We also need to know this membership status of the rider. For this, we call the stored procedure get membership status, and we see that the membership status of the logged in user is none. By using these values, we call the stored procedures cost and enter the following values. This gives us the total cost of the route. Next, we enter all these values into the take ride stored procedure. In the take ride stored procedures, we enter the following values: the username of the logged in user, the start location, which is Rome, the end location, which is Madrid, ride date, which is specified in the task list, cost of the route, and train ID. So after this, we can go to the ride table to see if our entry is entered or not, and we see that it is indeed entered. We can also go to the stops table and see that the number of passengers has also increased by one of those trains. 13, which is getting the referral code of the registered user and displaying the referral code, displaying the number of people referred, and displaying the membership level of that user. So for this, I first call the stored procedure referral code and entered the login of the user given. This gives me the referral code of the logged in user. Then I call the stored procedure membership status to get the membership status and number of people referred. Here I get the membership status and the number of people referred, which is 0, and the membership status is none because of that. In which I have to filter the rider ride history table based on the start date of 2018-12-25 and end date 2019-1-15.
For conductor strike, so I'm setting the username to conductor 5, and if I select from employee, you can see that conductor 5 salary has been set to 0. And now if I select from train, conductor 5 is now null.
The only task with this is to filter the trains by whether or not it contains the location Berlin. In order to demonstrate this, let us first show that we do in fact have a grid of trains with capacity, conductor, number of stops, and their total revenue. Let's run it one more time. There are only 2 items because there are only 2 items that have both conductors and riders. Let's now move to the filter screen. By placing in this city here, you will only include trains which stop at this city. Let's go ahead and try to filter by Rome. You can see it works because both blue and purple contain Rome for a city such as Madrid. Again, only purple contains Madrid, so only purple is included. No existing train contains Berlin. So when we run the screen filter Berlin, there will be no results. We can see this if we go to rides. Oh, well, there is a ride for Berlin, but there are no trains that stop at Berlin. As you can see, only purple and blue have actual stops. We can go ahead and try to manipulate this by adding a false stop at Berlin. Let's see what happens if we can fool the system. That seems to have succeeded. Let us now attempt to recreate screen 16, and we have fooled the system into thinking that the green train has stops. Now it appears because it has some number of stops. If we now go to the filter page and run it again based on who contains a stop Berlin, we will now see, or who contains a location Berlin, we will now see the green train is present. We have here Maria Garcia and Conductor 5 represent 2 users who we will check to see their desired salaries and then decline or accept them. Now, we have not yet set Maria Garcia's raise request. I imagine that's an earlier task somewhere, but I don't see it. So instead of using Maria Garcia, I will be using Conductor 2 and Conductor 5, each of which do actually have their own raise request. Let's move right into it. So here we see the conductors table. We see Maria Garcia does not have a raise request, but Conductor 5 and Conductor 2 do. So we'll demonstrate checking each of these raise requests and then declining one of the raise requests and accepting the other. Let's begin. Let's go ahead and check what Conductor 2's desired salary is. New salary, 80,000. Old salary, 71,000. Each of these will be mapped to the screen in the application, but obviously since this is no application, we just have this little table. Now we move to either the approve or decline screens. The approve screen will take in an ID and approve their salary. The decline screen will take in an ID and decline their salary. It does not require anything except the user ID. So let's demonstrate this. Whoopsie daisy, accidentally closed that. Let me go ahead and pull it open. Let's demonstrate this by declining Conductor 2's request. Conductor 2. We'll go ahead and decline Conductor 2's raise request. Let's see what happens in the conductor table. This is what we had before, 80,000. And now there is no raise amount requested. Conductor 5 still has a raise request of 65,000. Let's go ahead and make sure that Conductor 2 did not receive their raise and still has 71,000. Yes. The conductor 2 has 71,000 as their salary, and their new request salary has been eliminated. Let us now approve conductor 5. Conductor 5's raise request has been approved. Remember, he has requested 65,000. Let's make sure that the request was deleted. It is now gone. No conductor is now requesting a raise. Let's move to screen 5 and confirm that conductor 5 indeed now has 65,000 as their old salary, or current salary. They indeed do. In this demonstration, we're going to see that we can display the capacity of a train, the type of a train, the location, admin, conductor, and we will then change capacity of the train to 60. Let's go to the sequel. As we can see, currently train has blue, train type regular, capacity 50, conductor, administrator. In the application, in order to get this, you would use select all from CS project.train. It's a very simple SQL. We will include it separately from the display locations, which we have here. This allows us to show these values from train separately from the locations, which will be included in their own table. Let's now update the blue train to have a capacity of 60, as we desire. And we run this code. We can now see that the blue train originally had 50 and is now going to have 60. In this task, we display important employee information as well as display the continent, and then we change the last name of an employee. Let's begin. For the purposes of this task, we will be referring to the user manager 2. Manager 2 is both an employee and a writer, so he has continent information as well as others. So we can see in the employee tab his employee ID is 7, and his first and last names are manager and 2. Let's go ahead to the employee info. When we run this, we see that all of that information is there. If we go to the writer table, we then also see that his continent of birth is Europe. We have a separate command for running this, just so that we can separate the employee info from this particular writer specific call. If we run this, we see that the content is Europe. Finally, let's go ahead and edit the employee so that his last name is Franco. Last name, Franco, for conductor 2. If we run this command, you'll see a row has changed. And if we check employee users, reload this, we will see that manager 2 has become manager Franco.
For admin view stop details, so if I set the place to Paris and duration max as 4, min as 0, it shows the train ID, location, duration, and unsold tickets.
Hi, I'm Eeshanee and I'm gonna do task 22, which is finding a ride bit from Rome to Oslo. Here we see that there is no ride from Rome to Oslo and it shows error because no route can be found from Rome to Oslo.